Hi, and welcome to this video that is a little bit different than other videos that you've seen from my site. In this video, we take a peek at Taekwondo history, but not the entire thing because the Taekwondo history is complex and has a lot of different angles and a lot of different views and a lot of different topics that could be very interesting to look at. But the part we look at here is, well, I'm from Denmark and I'm from the Danish Taekwondo, so we'll look at the roots from Denmark down in the old Moo Duk Kwan school. That's one of the schools that was founded in Korea post the Japanese occupation time, post the Second World War. So what was it that happened? How did this evolve into becoming what we have today? And what's the lineage that we have from the Moo Duk Kwan down to what we have today? So if this has your interest, then take a look here. As mentioned, today's topic is Taekwondo history, where we take a look at this part of Taekwondo history where we look at the roots Taekwondo has in the Moo Duk Kwan. So starting with this, taking a look at the roots in Moo Duk Kwan, we need to take a look at who was it that founded Moo Duk Kwan. Well, Moo Duk Kwan was founded by Grandmaster Wang Ke, and his school was called Moo Duk Kwan, but the style he used was Subakdo Tangsudo. On the images here you see Wang Ke, and in the middle one you see Wang Ke with Chuck Norris, a more famous student of his. So let's take a look at where it really started. Well, Wang Ke, it all began back in May 1921, where Wang Ke saw a fight and at a town party, and this man was fighting. There's this one man who was fighting 7 to 8 bullies, and they were discussing a little bit which style it was that he was using, but it ends up being determined as being a Taekyeon, the style Taekyeon, which you also see in the images here. And then what happened was that Wang Ke, he followed him home because he would really like to learn this amazing style that helped him fight 7 to 8 people. So he rang his doorbell, and the man, or knocked on his door, and the man came out and took a look at Wang. And Wang Ke at this time was only a kid, about 12 years old, and he asked if he could receive some training from him, but he was refused because he was too young. But Wang Ke didn't give up this easily, so he found out that behind his building he had some backyard area where he was practicing, and he found a place where he could actually lie and spy on him while he was practicing, and then he tried to copy his moves, and that way he learned some moves and learned a little bit Taekyeon. It wasn't formal training, but he picked up a little here and there. But then we actually need to go some years forward to the year 1936, where Wang Ke, together with a friend, visited China, and in China he was having with a Chinese man called Cook Jin Yang and his wife, and Wang and his friend discovered at this gathering that Cook Jin Yang was a master in Chinese martial arts. So he got very interested in this because he really wanted to practice and receive some formal training. So he asked if he would train him. And fortunately, he accepted Wang Ke as his pupil. And during this time, during his training with Master Cook Jin Yang, Wang Ke received some training in something called Sebap, which is a method of posture. He also received some training in something called Bobap, which is method of steps. In Ryun Bop, which is method of conditioning. And in 2 forms called Dam Tausip Ero and Taekwondo, which are some discipline forms uh, and also he also received training in their combat applications. So at this time, normally you would not, as today where you practice 20 or 30 different forms, you would practice 2, 3, 5 forms at the tops. And each form was considered a style. So he was practicing these two and learned the applications for them. Um, Van Ke, though, didn't get to stay that long in China and practice. He only got to stay there until August 1937, where he had to go back to Seoul. But then he continued traveling a little bit back and forth to receive some training. But then all of a sudden, the borders to China was closed, and he couldn't go up there anymore. Um, he was working for the railways, and he also visited one of the old schools. The name they used for the schools was Tangsudo or Kangsudo. Tangsudo translates to the way of the China hand, and Kangsudo translates to the way of the open hand. And if you translate both of that to Japanese, it translates Karate-do. So Manke was receiving some training in Tangsudo, and he also found some books. Um, it is meant, but not documented, that these books were some of Kichin Funakashi's Shotokan karate books, since some of the forms that he brought with him into his own style, the Moo Duk Kwan style, was some the Pyung Ahn forms, or as they're called in Okinawan, or originally in Okinawan and Japanese, Pinan and Heian. Those forms were some of the forms that he brought with him. Um, but he practiced from the books, and he practiced a little bit from one of the schools in Seoul. And then as time flew by, he reached a point where he wanted to start his own school. And November 9th in 1948, Anki, he found his own school. This was the opening date, and the Moo Duk Kwan school um, was founded. The image that you see here to your left is a drawing of the facade of the building where he started his first school. And then you see Van Ke doing a floor swipe in the upper picture in the middle, and then there's a practitioner hidden some wood. I can't really see what it is, but he's doing some punch training in the middle. And then you have Van Ke's Moo Duk Kwan emblem on the right hand side of the images. When he first started, he didn't use the name Tangsudo, he used the name Vasuro, which translates to art of the flower hand. This was because he found that was more Korean-like. And at this time, they just liberated from the Japanese occupation, and so he wanted to show that he was more Korean. But unfortunately, this didn't provide him that many students or pupils. And he wanted his school to grow so that he could make some business out of it as well. So after some time, he decided to change the name from Vasudo to Tangsudo. The name, not the name of the school, because the name of the school was Moo Duk Kwan, but the name of the style. And then later on, in fact, in 1957, he discovered a book called Muye Dopo Tongji. This book is a few years ago, it was translated to English by Sang H. Kim. And it has the title, this is an image of my copy that you see here, the Comprehensive Illustrated Manual of Martial Arts of Ancient Korea. And this book was something that was, it's a very old book. It's from the 1700s. It was created to get a grasp. Actually, it was a king or a crown prince of Korea at the time that initiated the creation of this book to learn more, because they had some fights and struggles and were overwhelmed from both Japanese and Chinese soldiers through years. And then he wanted to get an overview of different fighting styles and weaponry and way of doing battle. So this book has, when you go through it, has horseback riding, fighting from horseback, and using spears and different kind of swords and shields, and also empty-handed combat. So it has a lot of different kind of combat in it as well, also the bow as well. But Van Ke, he looked at this empty-handed combat, and he really started studying it. And after studying it for a while, he took some parts of it and brought it into his style and made changes in his style accordingly. And then, as a consequence, he changed the name of his style as well. So it wasn't just Tangsudo, but Subakdo Tangsudo, to show that it was not pure Tangsudo, but it had the elements of this more ancient Korean style as well incorporated into it. So after doing this and doing these changes, the Moo Duk Kwan school grew and actually became the largest school in Korea. Here again, you see Van Ke on the two images. Yeah. And remember that this is a time where there was a lot of hunger. There was a lot. It was a post-war period in Korea, so it was hard times. And in these times, they also struggled. A lot of people struggled, and there was strong forces that wanted to bring the different kwans, the different schools together to be a joint school, one martial art for Korea, to build the Korean spirit and to form something that was Korean. And this was also part of the liberation from and it had been going on for some years, the liberation from Japan. So in this process, it's worth to mention a man called Hong Chung-so. Hong Chung-so was pupil number 10, Van Ke's pupil number 10. He's the tall one in the middle on the left-hand side drawing, and then you see him on the other drawings as well. So he is the co-founder of Taekwondo Moo Duk Kwan. So what happened here was that he was, as well as many other instructors in Korea, was under pressure. Van Ke was participating in some of the negotiations on merging the different schools, but he pulled out and wanted to continue with his own. But Master Hung, he decided to break with Van Ke and actually go and be part of this new joining merge of different clans of different schools to become Taekwondo. And Hung is also the teacher of Grandmaster Kotayang that we have here in Denmark. And Grandmaster Kotayang was at practice on the day where they broke, and he tells me that Hung was discussing with Van Ke in the office, and then he went through the dojang, and he went out. Two months after, he started his own, a little closer to where Grandmaster Kotayang was living, so he moved over there and continued practicing there. Mentioning this, we should also mention Grandmaster Kotayang just in brief, and the information that I have here is from the Simu homepage. So his full name is Kotayang. Kotayang was born on July 24th in 1948 in Kusang in south of Korea, which is a small town approximately 250 kilometers from Seoul. Grandmaster Ko started practicing judo actually in the beginning, back in 1959, but after almost a year, he's shifted and continued practicing Taekwondo, which he's been doing ever since. And thanks for that, because he, together with Grandmaster Pyung Ahn, has been the two dominant profiles that we've had in Denmark, and that really has been elevating the Taekwondo in Denmark. So then, at a point in time, we have close to the year 1980. We have a delegation from Denmark that's visiting Korea, and visits a monastery north of in the mountains north of Seoul. And in this monastery, Grandmaster Ko is a fighting monk, where he practices several different martial art styles. Um, and they convince him to come to Denmark. So in 1980, he starts a new chapter in his life, and he leaves Korea for the first time, coming to Denmark, where he starts by settling in Fredericia, where he lives the first year. After that, he moves on to Copenhagen, and after that, he moves to the Poomsae in something called Pastøy, and today he's living in Esbjerg on the west coast of Denmark. So he's been a little bit around. He's played a major role for many practitioners in Denmark. Um, Also, if we also he's been my teacher and master since my childhood. I've been so lucky that I've been practicing both with Grandmaster Kotayang and with Grandmaster Pyung Ahn. Grandmaster Kotayang has been the one that's followed me that I've been following the longest since my childhood. But I've been practicing some years with Grandmaster Pyung Ahn as well. So I find that very fortunate to have had the opportunity to practice with both such great competencies. Well, this if we should try to recap this a little bit, then we have the lineage of the styles that we practice, where the founder is Grandmaster Van Ke, and then his student Grandmaster Hung was part of forming Taekwondo Moo Duk Kwan, and then we have the head grandmaster of Simu Taekwondo, Grandmaster Kotayang, who's the third in the lineage from the founder of the Moo Duk Kwan school. So this was a little bit on how the Taekwondo we know in Denmark has its roots in the Moo Duk Kwan school. Here's the sources that I've been using for this information. I'll just let it hang there a little bit. And then the only thing left to say is, well, thank you for listening. And on the image that you see here is myself together with Grandmaster Kotayang. And it was at my 7th degree black belt promotion, or 7th dan promotion test back in 2017. So from here, there's the only one thing left to say. Thank you for listening, and go practice.